So, is Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the movie, good? Yes, but it really could have been better. So, the first movie, whenever it came out, it was just basically like a love letter to the games, you know? Scott Cawthon pretty much had a sole hand in making it, and you could tell that he really just made it for the fans. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the same in the sense that it feels like it was made directly for the fans, but it also kind of felt like that we run into the issue of Scott didn't really know where to take it per se, in relation to the story and the games and how they kind of relate. And don't get me wrong, I'm the big Five Nights at Freddy's fan. I mean, look at the shirt. The shirt says it all. This shirt says it all. Foxy back there says it all. The Toy Chica drink topper that I got says it all. I'm a huge fan of the series. I grew up with it. I watched Markiplier play through it. I watched all the game theory videos. I love Five Nights at Freddy's as a series, but it's always had this issue of the story doesn't really know where it wants to go sometimes, and it isn't until the next game that things are answered. But then in those things getting answered, there are more questions that made, and that's kind of what we see happen in the movie here. With Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So to begin with kind of some of the gripes that I have with it, or not really gripes, but more just like stuff that they changed to the games and the game story. The big thing, and I'm not going to really go into spoilers, I'm probably just going to like allude to some things, I'm not going to go into deep spoilers. They changed the puppet's origin story from the game, or at least I believe they did. It's been a while since I've actually gone back and watched the game theories and all the stuff on it. But they changed the puppet's origin, which I didn't really necessarily hate. I thought it was a good change. I thought it was fine, but some of the elements to the changes were just kind of questionable at best. One of the big things that I wasn't really a big fan of is there's a scene where there's a character who's trying to get the attention of some of the older people, but the older people are just saying, no, go away, don't bother us, we're adults, you go do your children thing. And well, I guess during the time that may have been something that happened. It just kind of felt a little unrealistic. You know, I feel like if a kid came up to you and was like, hey, there's something wrong, can you come help me with this? Most people would probably go and help the kid, but who knows? It was the 80s, things go wrong. But then that kind of brings us to the next thing, and this is just kind of an issue that'll probably be ingrained in the series if it keeps on getting produced for the big screen or TV series, is one of the major plot elements of Five Nights at Freddy's is, you know, missing kids. And in the first movie, if you've seen it, you know that they have, you know, kid actors playing the ghosts of the kids who were killed by the Yellow Bunny or William Afton or whatever. And one of the issues you run into Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is we have more of those kid actors. And there are some that are trying their best and they're giving their all, but then there are some of the kid actors who are just kind of not really all there, and it's not really anything that you can blame them for. They're not as experienced as some of the bigger names in the series or in the movie, so it's just kind of like not really something you could blame them for, but it's still just kind of a thing where it's like it's there and it's kind of hard to ignore, and you just kind of have to deal with it and just have to remember it's a kid acting and things. So I mean, that's not really a complaint. I'd say it's something you got to be aware about, and it does kind of in some aspects bring you out of the immersion, so to say, a little bit. Another thing that has been built up and continues to be built in this film but kind of stumbles toward the end is the relationship between Mike and Vanessa. So Michael Schmidt, the guy he plays in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and the main character in the movie, and sort of in this one as well. His little sister, Abby, she's kind of got the supernatural connection with the unknown, and she's talking to the animatronics, and they're talking to her back. They're, you know, gossiping about freaking the latest fizzy faz drink or whatever. And then you have Vanessa, who was introduced in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, which is really cool to see because in the games, at least the most recent, or the only person we know of as Vanessa is, well, Vanny from Security Breach. Her name was Vanessa, and I think most people have come to agree that Vanessa is Vanny. So whenever you go into Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and you know the information, you're kind of thinking, okay, I know where this character's going, I kind of know who she is. But the way that they handle that in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is strange, and I'm kind of interested to see how it goes. And I realize that this is completely going off the beaten track of what the thing is about Mike and Vanessa, but we'll get back to that in a second. They kind of make her appear to kind of be almost like an insane, crazy lunatic. They even have a character who says like she's got crazy eyes, but really it's like she's not really doing anything that's too different to what Mike did in the first movie. So the characters they're saying that she has crazy eyes are just kind of almost contradicting themselves. They're being a little bit hypocritical whenever they're saying that, oh, it's okay that Mike did it because she's doing it, it's weird and it's freaky and all that stuff. And I don't necessarily know if that attributes to how Mike views her, but regardless, it does definitely seem that they're kind of just almost like trying to make her this crazy psycho kid of a, killer type thing. But back to how they progress Mike and Vanessa's relationship. They start off in the movie pretty tight knit. They're going on a date together and stuff. And so you come to expect that they're pretty close and they watch out for each other. But then by the end of the movie, Mike just kind of says, hey, Vanessa, stay away from us. You've caused a lot of pain and suffering throughout this movie. And it makes sense, I guess, but it's still really weird that he says, hey, Vanessa, can you come help me figure out this issue that I don't want to talk about because it's a spoiler of the movie. It's kind of weird that he says, hey, Vanessa, come help me figure out this whole thing that's going on with the movie. And then at the very end, he's like, hey, Vanessa, you're weird, you're creepy, and you don't tell us things. Stay away from us. And it just kind of doesn't feel natural. You feel like that through the course of the movie and what they go through, they would grow close together, not further apart. But that's just not how it works, and it just doesn't really make sense to me, I guess. I mean, you could say that because of what happens in the movie and what he learns about Vanessa throughout the course of the movie, it kind of withers away at that idea he has of her, but it just kind of almost feels like a switch turned on in his brain, and he was like, maybe I shouldn't trust her whenever she's been nothing but helpful to me and nothing but a good person to me. And it's just, I don't know, it feels weird. There is also one part toward the end of actually is like the final big climactic showdown at the end of the movie that I've just put called Fazvenger's Symbol. And to anybody who is seeing this after the fact, you'll know what I mean. That was just stupid. Like it's not even a funny stupid. It was just like, it's like Benoit Blanc. Like they're like, oh my gosh, it's genius. No, it's just dumb. It's just so stupid. I don't want to go into really many spoilers about it because it's really stupid how they do it. They're like, best I could say is that our main characters, our heroes, Mike, Vanessa, and Abby, are getting cornered in a house by the toy animatronics, and all hope is lost. And then the freaking Fazvengers assemble. Yeah, the Fazvengers come in and they do things, and it's supposed to be like this really cool, like, yeah, get them team scene. And then they immediately are like, all right, peace. And they just dip out. Hey there, what's up? It's Editing Kingley. I just wanted to pop in and say something that I forgot to say whenever I actually recorded this first time. The animatronics looked fantastic. I don't remember who doing the animatronics. 1 second, let me look that up real quickly. Okay, so after a little bit of certain says that Jim Henson's Creature Shop did it, that makes total sense. They looked absolutely incredible. Again, just like in the first movie, they absolutely brought those characters to life in ways that were amazing. The puppet, it grew on me over time. It grew on me over time. Like the puppet, the marionette, whatever you want to call it, it acted like a puppet that was on a string, which makes sense because that's basically what the puppet is. And then some of the like other stuff that they did with the puppet in like relation to some of the characters was a really cool idea. And if you know about the lore, especially about stuff that happens in such location with a certain character, a certain son, it's really cool how they kind of tie that concept into what the puppet does. But yeah, I just wanted to pop in and say that was another really cool thing that did with the movie. So back to whatever the heck other me was saying. I will say that one of the things I really did appreciate about the movie, and this might seem kind of morbid, but I really liked how they increased the violence of the movie. They added, even though the kills weren't as visually graphic, there wasn't a whole bunch of like blood and guts and gore flying everywhere because it's a children's horror franchise. It's still, the kills that were shown in the movie are a lot more violent than in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and they're more on par of what you'd expect like a horror movie to be. And I think that's good because I always, growing up with it, Five Nights at Freddy's was always like a horror franchise to me. So I think the fact that they're leaning more into that and they're kind of pulling back from the safe image that it had, Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is a good thing, and I really hope they lean even heavier into it for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, especially since it's more than likely going to be occurring, or at least it's going to be heavily inspired by the events of the game Five Nights at Freddy's 3, which features the GOAT, Springtrap. I don't know why I'm calling a child killer the GOAT, but I just think Springtrap is a cool concept, but that's besides the point. That's besides the point. So I went to go, I don't even think I said this at the beginning, but I went to go see this for like a fan event. I was invited by a friend. It was a really cool experience. But I almost kind of regret being that the first time I saw the movie, because there were a lot of people in there who were like just straight up glup shittoing over every little thing. Like Bonnie came up on the screen and they were like, Bonnie. And then there was a scene with a certain animatronic that everybody was like, it's the person. And it was really weird because then there was another scene with arguably even more important animatronic to the story. Everybody was just like, I see. Cool. And it's just like, I don't know. It just felt like, oh yeah, also there was kids behind me who were like, every time a joke was made, they were like, haha, this is funny now. This is a funny movie now. And they would just keep on ruffling their stupid little popcorn and candy going, and I literally wanted to turn around to them and just be like, hey, shut up. Like, it was getting so annoying. And there was it's just the experience of going out and seeing a movie. But I really feel like that if you're going to go see this, you should probably find a very empty theater, or at least wait a few days before all like the die-hard FNAF fans go out and see it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be like a super hardcore die-hard FNAF fan, but I think for those of you who probably aren't and probably are just kind of wanting to go see it casually, it's probably best if you hang back for a bit and let all the die-hard FNAF fans go have their fun, go, hoot and hollering about Mangle coming down and snatching some people up, you know what I mean? And just wait for them to get all that out of the system before you go, because I think you'll have a more enjoyable experience because there won't be as many kids there and won't be as many parents regretting taking their kids to the movie. So yeah, that's summing it all up. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, it's okay. Not as good as the first one. There's definitely some places where it can improve. I definitely think it's still a movie made for fans, and I think that's a good thing. And I really hope that Markiplier is in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, because if he isn't, I might cry, quite frankly. Yeah. I'm not sure what to do with the Toy Chica cup topper. I feel like it's a mortal sin to even have it, but I paid for it, so I'm going to keep it. Okay, I'm going to go now.